They had these images of two different brains side by side and the brain activity of someone who's not on psychedelics versus someone who is. The one who was on psychedelics was just lit up. And that's what they talk about in a lot of these studies, how it helps you break out of your thought patterns, use more pieces of your brain to build a more full perspective of reality, of everything.
This is the Agent Goldmine, where you'll find real talk, and ambition. We're here to build real businesses and be more than your average agent. We want to know what killers are actually doing within their businesses, the reality of it, all tactical, no fluff. So we're here to find out. Please share and enjoy. Shelby!
Round 3 attempt at recording this episode.
It's almost as if the universe doesn't want you to record this one, Shelby.
Dude, it's my dad is working with Riverside and the weather outside to do this mixture of just Shelby's not getting this out.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, which is everyone, this is our third attempt at recording this. There's always something that comes out. This last time, we just spent about 30 minutes recording this episode, and Shelby's electricity went out. I still think it was her dad pulling the circuit breaker, but here we go again.
Dude, let's do it for real. It's happening. We're talking about psychedelics. Just cutting to the chase, no small talk. Let's fucking go.
No small talk. All right, yeah. Today I am interviewing Shelby. Her topic is on drugs and deals, and I'm still so proud of that name. Talking about psychedelics, and we're not going to go into the who, what, when, where, but we are going to go into the why and how it benefits you as a person and in your business.
Totally.
Because Shelby and this crew, it's always how to make something productive.
Not a party drug. Yes, I'm excited too. For the third, I'm still excited. Round 3.
Yeah. And
okay.
For those
what do you want to
know?
Just kidding.
I have. I will also say I posted on my Instagram story back when we were supposed to be doing this last week, and I said, "Hey, I'm interviewing Shelby on drugs and deals. Ask me what questions you want to know." So I am asking, while this podcast goes on, I'm going to be asking a couple of questions that I received from my Instagram audience. So let's take it from the top, though.
From the top.
Psychedelic. Yeah.
Yes.
Psychedelics.
Yes.
What do you mean by psychedelics?
Oh my God. What I mean is not a party drug. This is not let's go give up. It's not at all that. This is a way to condense learning, experiences, reflection, and transform in a highly efficient, effective manner. That's what I mean by having a psychedelic experience.
Okay, so it's not I ain't got to do in the morning, the Surgeon General's warning. Do you remember that one?
No, I don't, but it's not like that. And dude, it's funny because I've never smoked a cigarette in my life. That was my never have I ever that always got people. By the way, I was like, yes, look at it. I've never smoked a cig. And so all through high school and college and then years in the military, never even considered, especially, your parents tell you this is a hard drug. There's those lines that are arbitrarily drawn in the world. And so it was never even on my radar until I was literally at a business conference and was talking to someone who I viewed as being successful in the industry, has done a lot of things, is very well known. And I don't know, if you know me, I am usually cut the small talk. I hate superficial. I'm straight to the depths of your soul as fast as possible. And so he and I went there quick, super intense. And he's like, dude, have you ever tripped? And I was like, no, but why? Tell me more. And he was like, yo, if you like this deep reflection, trying to strip yourself down to the best version of yourself, you have to do this. I was like, what are you talking about? But also super, please tell me more. And so he was kind of like my shaman. I think that's the right word. Who led me through my experiences.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. And it was at a business conference. So if there is one way to take Shelby from never having smoked a cigarette to doing psychedelics, it's through the power of tapping into yourself and reflecting. So I know that you, and I think I might know who this person is, but I know you, and you're very much so a very reflective person overall. How do you feel about those that are not reflective, that don't pause to better themselves? Would they benefit from this?
Oh, 100%. Especially since I do think that probably the benefits of the psychedelic experiences could probably come to you if you were a monk in a cave and that's all you did was reflect and, think and all of the things that you need to do to meditate. For those of people who don't want to reflect, it is a great kick in the teeth. No matter, you have no choice. And that's one of my favorite things about it too. It's even when I'm doing Miracle Morning or I'm taking the time completely undistracted to think and try to work through things, you have the option when you're not tripping to move on, to get distracted, to pick up your phone, to check emails. You have that choice. But one of my favorite things about psychedelics is that it grabs hold of you and you have no choice but to sit in it for hours. There is no escape from what you need to face that's underneath your conscious.
Oh my gosh. In
Yeah.
psychology, I was a psych undergrad and there's a term called flooding. So whenever somebody has a really bad fear of something, one technique, one option is to flood them. They're scared of snakes, jump in a snake pit like that.
Jesus.
So that
Yeah.
seems to be very flooding a mentality, which is crazy. That sounds scary.
We love your DMs on Instagram, and as long as you don't sound a bot or aren't sharing your overnight crypto success, hit us up on Instagram. Let's be friends. We're at The Shelby Show and at Allie the Agent.
Dude, my first experience with this was years ago now. I've had many, many, many experiences with this, and they're all so unique and all productive in their own way, which we can talk about. But my first experience, I was confident. I was a little cocky. My shaman was, yo, dude, you don't know what you're getting into. And I'm like, dude, I'm Shelby. I'm scared of nothing. You know what I mean? And I literally got my teeth kicked in. I was shook. I was shook mentally, but also physically. And it took me 2 weeks to recover from that first experience, which it's so different
Okay.
now.
Whoa. Talk further.
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Two
And what do you mean
weeks.
by physically?
Mhm.
Yeah, dive into that.
So I know, Al, you said this on either the last one or the one before that we've tried, that you've never done this before. So just so you know, it depends on which type of experience, which type of trip you're going to do. But the one I did normally is an 8 hour, sometimes even 12-hour experience. And there's a bunch of different phases in this. So, and I've said before, usually you're in, for me, it's you have a neutral setting. Setting is super important. You've set the stage in your life. You've managed expectations with people in your life. Hey, I'm going to be out of the loop for the next 12, 24, 48 hours. I have to say 48 hours because even after the trip is done, I use the next 24 hours to reflect and go back through my notes. But anyway, okay, so you're in the right set. You have your music, you have your snacks, your playlist, your comfy clothes. You're in the right environment. You take whatever is your form of psychedelic adventure. And I always have a notebook. It's on my trip checklist, which is going to be uploaded. I don't know if we should actually upload that, but upload it into theagentgoldmine.com. Allie's
We'll
face
ask
right now.
Dan.
She's
We'll
like,
ask our
unofficial
impromptu
attorney.
attorney. Yeah.
Oh, that's something I didn't say. So Dan Krupa was interviewed a couple episodes ago and he's studying for law school right now. So he was prepping me. And so this is one of my things. I am not condoning this behavior. I am not saying that everyone should go out and do this. I'm just sharing my own experiences. Okay. Check the block. Dan, I did it. But okay. So as a part of my checklist, you have to bring your notebook and a pen and document the journey. This sounds so Shelby. Oh my God. But so,
I love it.
Go. You take your adventure of choice, you eat it, and then you put down the date, the time, who you were with, your location, all that stuff. Because I have trip notebooks out the wazoo, and I love reading them. But the reason why it's really important to the time is because the experience earns its name. So when, you're going on a trip, you're tripping, it's because literally you are going on a trip to outer space and back in 12 hours that feels an entire lifetime condensed into a couple hours. So it's really important for for me, my experience sharing, to write down what time it is when I start because of the phases. So it's a blast off, you take it. And then the first phase is the sweats. And this is where you are probably a little giggly. You're just feeling weird things. This is the first hour. And then you go into the main event, really. I wouldn't even actually, it's not really the main event. It's the intense visuals piece. And that's where you are holding on for dear life. There's the whole world is breathing. Though whatever you look at has a breath to it and a pulse. And this is probably where psychedelics gets its reputation, where it's everyone's, oh, it's the visuals. It's not a hallucination for me. It's not, I mean, I guess it depends on what you determine hallucination to be. I'm not imagining things. There's not a dragon coming out of the wall. There's not, it's everything that is there. And I'm grounded in reality. I know where I am, but it just, everything comes to life, and things that seemed so mundane before are not. It's this magical, beautiful piece of the puzzle. And then you move into the one where I think it's most important to have your notebook, because you start opening up, your mind opens up, and that's where your subconscious layers start bubbling up. But the thoughts come to you, they're on the wind. So that's why it's so important to have your freaking notebook and your pen, because these really great, not crazy, but insightful pieces just float through you and on the wind, and then they're gone. And if you're not capturing keywords, you are missing it. And you're not talking at this time. You're literally just you're capturing it. And that's why you have to later go back and reflect and piece apart those. Okay, I'm gonna start talking. Allie, what you got?
Okay. So timeline out of the 8 to 12 hour trip.
Oh my God.
No.
Dude, I love your face. It's everything. You're what the is happening? This is great.
I'm processing. I'm imagining you doing it. I'm imagining it me doing. I'm barefoot in my kitchen right now.
I know, dude. Okay. Love.
How many minutes or hours into it does the notebook portion come into it?
Oh, I'm attached. We're in there. We're the whole freaking time, because I will, on the notebook, document kind of how I'm feeling also. And then I'll also timestamp it. So, you start and then you come back in an hour and this is how I'm feeling, whatever. And then once it gets really crazy, you'll be able to get a couple words in there and roughly timestamp it. But then you go on this crazy adventure and you come back to timestamp it again, and it's been 12 minutes. And you're, what the I have been on this whole adventure and it's been 12 minutes. And then you realize that you have 7 more hours to go. And you're like, oh my God. It's great though, I promise.
Oh my gosh. So then, okay, you mentioned very fleeting thoughts. Why not use a computer to type faster?
Girl, you should see the scribbles that come out of my hand. There ain't no way I'm typing. I'm not seeing a text message. And the whole, because you're in your intense visuals phase. I'm not texting anyone. I'm not reading phones are the last thing on my freaking mind.
On your mind.
And computers
are they
not.
Is that on
not
purpose?
Happening. Oh, I wouldn't say it's on purpose, but I'm grateful. It's one of those things. So psychedelics is also one of the most grounding experiences you can have, where you're so present. You're so in the experience. And I think that that's one of the reasons why I love it so much too. It's because in our life, we are so far away from that. Every moment we're living, half the time I'm living in Arizona with you. I'm living in Florida with Caleb. I'm in Greensboro with Landon. I'm anywhere except for here. But when you're going through these experiences, there is nothing except for your own thoughts, experiences, the ground around you. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Kind of. No. Okay. That does. So for those, how do I put this nicely? I'm not going to put this nicely. For those with baggage that have traumatic experiences, will they ever think of anything other than that? Will they be able to break through into business or something that's less threatening, or does it just stop at the threatening baggage?
That's a great question. And I can only ever share what I've experienced. But what I've experienced, even when going into it with something that I really want to work through, I always come out with more than just that. It's one of those things where there could be a strong theme that the universe is telling you to work through, but there's always more than just that, because there's so many layers to unpack in even people who are, oh, I'm good, dude. That was honestly, I'm not even kidding. That was me. I was like, dude, I'm good. What do you mean I have to work on myself? What? And then I was, I think that's probably why I was so screwed up for 2 weeks, is because it was the rug in which I had built my entire understanding of myself was just ripped out from under me. And I was, oh my God, I actually have a lot of work to do.
Okay, so I want to go to a question that was brought in
Yes.
from, let me see here. So I put this on my Instagram story, and I think we're diving into this now-ish. Nelson Onwuzu, a realtor
Yeah.
from, he's out in Phoenix, Arizona. He's part of the Five Pillars community. He asked, did psychedelics change your perspective on the psychology of business or finances or people? So kind of it's a big question,
So
but
many. Thanks, Nelson. So many. Those 3 questions in one. No, I love it though.
yeah.
100% yes. But I also think that anyone who knows me, you know this, my business and my personal life we're so commingled over here. We're, it is one life. I'm not one of those people who has, I work from 9 to 5 and then I turn off work and then I start my other life. My days and everything, the people in my life, everything is commingled. Because I'm obsessed with business and I'm obsessed with personal development, and those go really well hand in hand. But I guess to answer Ish's question on how it changed my philosophy, and I would say that before I had that first experience, for sure, I was hyper competitive and I was very ego driven and I was judgmental towards things that I felt were outside of what I viewed to be my own value hierarchy. So I'm 100% a competence driven value hierarchy. There's other people in my life who I love very much. Yesenia is built much more on relationships and feelings, and love her to death and respect all of those different pieces. Now, back in the day, I saw competency and I saw productivity and I saw everything else was a distraction, everything else was weak. And the experiences that I've gone through have taught me a lot about there's nothing black and white in this world. Everything is gray, and there is a lot of value in all of the different pieces of life that I used to just discount. So that was a big change that I didn't just do overnight. It was many different experiences with this. And then also just I used to be more selfish. I wanted to be the one who was shining. When now I'm more of, please, anyone else take the spot. I'm here to facilitate and I want to help. I don't know. That was one of the big changes as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that does. And so far, I'm seeing some parallel between weed and psychedelics. So, because you could also smoke and, do whatever, of course, legal. I'm not telling anybody to smoke, but you could also be just as reflective or just as intentional, with a
Yeah.
joint versus, or even just total disconnection. Monk, you mentioned earlier. Why not just be sober and solo and, eat, pray, love type thing? Or why not just take an edible? Why psychedelics?
Honestly, it's whatever works for you. I don't weed. I've tried a bunch of different types. They say, certain types will make you feel differently. I always feel lazy and I feel I don't want to speak. And honestly, it makes me really anxious. It makes me hermit up. And to me, they're night and day, completely different experiences. But I would say that if weed helps you do all of the things that you want in this world, then do weed. If you don't want to do any of that and you want to eat, pray, and love, I am 100% supportive of whatever you need to do to continue on your journey of transformation in life.
Okay. Okay. So weed tends to make some people more anxious, as does alcohol, right? The term anxiety
Yeah, I don't
is
like
around
alcohol.
for, yeah, it's around for like a reason. Do you have any sort of, aside from reflection, whether or not, you tapped into yourself, you're like, holy shit, these are some bad parts of me that I need to switch. Aside from that, what does coming back into reality is there anxiety that, is there, talk about that, the recovery.
Yeah. So that first time was, I told you, 2 weeks of recovery. And a lot of it was anxious, but it all came back to the fact that I just realized that I did not have the grasp on reality that I thought I did, And so it was a lot of reshaping the ground I walk on every day, and who am I and who do I want to be? All of it was really it was really powerful for me. But now it's not that at all. I feel I have, and we all have blind spots. That's why, people are so powerful. It's why you have the friends who will really tell you when you f up, because you don't always know. But yeah, now it's not that. I tend to go in with a purpose that I want to get out of it. And like I said, I get a bunch more out of it. And then I have that time dedicated the next usually full day to go back through my notes and take all of the little, things that I grabbed off the wind and then expand them into full blown thoughts and try to implement it into my life.
Give us an example.
The doll example that I talked about before, where it's one time I was just thinking about myself and pulling myself out of the reality that I'm in and looking at my life as if it was a doll in a dollhouse. And then I could watch this doll and the way that she slept and got up and her habits and what she did every day and when she off and when she didn't. And it was a lot easier to look at my life from that bird's eye view perspective and make the adjustments from an objective perspective as opposed to when I'm in it. You know what I mean? So that's one example.
It's similar to sometimes I might be alone in this, but sometimes whenever there's something that I don't know how to resolve, some sort of issue in my life, I try to talk to myself, but the 85-year-old version of myself. So, and I'm sober doing
Yeah.
this, but you know what? It's essentially like, what would 85-year-old Allie think? First of all, is it even going to be an issue that she's got to deal with when she's 85? And if not, then what's the fix? What would they think? How big of a deal it is? It puts it into perspective, which is I feel is pretty much what you're saying, right?
Yeah, that perspective. And I have another example. So I went through this very nihilistic time period, which is weird because most people who know me and talk to me think I'm super positive all the time, which I am. I am for the most part, but I went through this phase of, God, what is the point? Why are we working so hard? Why do we bust our ass every day? What's the point? We're literally all going to die. And honestly, none of it matters because we're all going to die, and maybe our kids will remember us for a little while, and then they'll tell a couple stories to their kids, and we're just done in 1.5 generations, unless you're Hitler, or maybe we do something terrible and the world remembers you, or there's certain people or creators, or maybe you make something great, but in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. And then you read books, Homo Deus. I read Sapiens and then Homo Deus, and I was, oh yeah, the Homo sapiens are just basically done. We're an extinct species in it doesn't matter. And so those experiences, psychedelics has really helped me out of those too. Because it helps you appreciate the beauty of now in ways that, and Allie, don't get me wrong. We could do this, reflection could do this. I totally agree. They totally could, but I don't think that for me, the intensity is there and then sitting in it, and then the teeth kicked in, and this holistic experience, this going through it all is something that hits home so much harder than if I, reflected or did my meditation for 30 minutes in the morning. And it's hard to explain that level of intensity that I'm trying to articulate through a camera, through 4 screens to Arizona. You know what I mean?
Yeah, while sober. Okay, so then what about shorter trips? Do you think that would be just as beneficial?
No, I've dabbled in that. So there's a businessman's trip. Very cool. But to me, that's fun. That's not, and that, I guess it goes back to what you're trying to get out of it. There's a lot of people who do, maybe psychedelics for fun, maybe. But for me, the intent is to expedite growth, to transform into the next level of what my potential holds. And for me, the short, quick ones, just I kind of mentioned right there, where it's too quick. It's not enough. You're not sitting in it. You're not feeling it. It's not becoming a part of you when
Yeah,
it's over in 15 minutes.
that makes sense. And in the previous recording, which got cut off, I do want to transfer it over to this one where some prerequisites of being in a small group, right? Actually, can you talk a little bit about prereqs? How do you even prepare for this?
Yo, real quick, this podcast is not free. Cost of admission is sharing with a buddy who'd benefit or throwing it on your Instagram story. Tag us. We'll reshare that. Yes. So I think who you choose to do these experiences with is very important. If one person's there to party and you're there to like have this like moving experience, it's like totally different energies. But also you don't want to be with someone who makes you feel judged or anxious or that you need to in any way shield yourself from. You know, there's some people who you have to have your guard up. You have to be on and you don't want to say the wrong thing. You know, that's not who I recommend going into these experiences with. And I do think that too many people is not a good thing. I think that less is more, 2, maybe 3. And what you should realize though, it's not you're actually going through it together. There's this quote by, I think it's Aldous Huxley. I'm probably going to butcher it. But basically he says that humans are tiny universes. They're on islands of tiny universes where it's no matter how well you try to explain it, that other person is never going to actually get what you're saying because they don't have the layers of experiences that you have that led up to you viewing the world the way that you do. So it's everything that you would do in life, even if you're side by side with someone, is in your own world. So anyway, that was a little detached. I'm bringing it back. So you're going on this adventure side by side with someone, but then you ideally want the person who wants to either talk or not talk about it afterwards at the same amount that you do. That would be helpful.
Almost thinking about this, a chat GPT type thing, you know, I have an issue, let me plug it into some system and then let me work through it, even though some other answers will come out probably.
Oh my God, your brain is hilarious. Love it.
So say someone has something that they want to work through. In your experience, do you typically do one trip per issue that you want to work through, or is it multiple?
That's a hard question. So it's not as clean cut in my experience either, especially since you've probably felt where it's nothing is ever permanent. You know, you're kind of building, even in business or in life, on the sand. And it's really easy for you get it just the way you want it. And then it just, everything just, and it's all about that consistency. You're improving or you're maintaining or you're, what is it, eroding? There's no set and done. That's not a thing. Doesn't exist. So my answer to that is there's usually a different, bigger, maybe something that I want to tackle, but a lot of it comes down to other things that I may have discovered previously that I need to bring up to be a new priority in my life. You know, because if you don't focus on it and you don't put the right amount of energy towards it, before you know it, you know, 6 months goes by and you're like, why do I feel it again? And then you're, oh yeah, it's because I'm not doing the things that I know that I should be doing. So does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah. So let's talk about how this has helped you in your business.
Yeah, it's hard because I don't remember what I said on this episode in the last one.
I mean, yeah, I'm getting to that point too.
What are we repeating at this point? Some of the things, which I think I've said on this one, but I was overly competitive. I would argue just to win and do whatever it took to win, as opposed to caring more about the end state. I would care about more that moment. That's something that I've really grown a lot in, and it's helped me in personal life, but also in business. We have mentioned the judgmental, lacking empathy, and patience. Those are all things. I used to be really ruthless too, which, gosh, this is making me sound so great, but it's the truth. So all of these things, I still am this way at my core. All of the negative things that I just listed at my core, that is who I am. So saying I've changed is the easy way to say it, but the real part is I haven't changed. I've just become more aware of it and know that I am stronger. The person I want to be, the person I choose to be, is stronger than those natural characteristics of myself. And I've learned to recognize when I have those moments and not let it overpower me. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. I think it would be easier to hold back on anger and, dial it down. But what about dialing it up? I feel like dialing it up for some people might be more, harder.
I don't want to dial it up.
Right.
I know that I could.
Should, somebody who doesn't have a backbone. They need to really just own their, or just speak up for themselves, something like that. That I feel like that difference, getting from there to speaking up for themselves, would be a difficult more difficult shift than it would be from someone
Sure.
that's to be like
Sit
a little
down,
bit nicer,
turn it down.
Yeah, less of an
I think that that's where the whole experience comes into. It's you're not going to go into this experience and be, I want to stand up to people and have that be the outcome. You might go into it being, I want to stand up to people, and then realize that this is the reason why I'm not. And this is the reason why I became this way. And this is the thing that that person is doing that makes me feel I can't stand up to them. So it's not so much I'm going to do this and I'm going to change who I am. It just is layer after layer after layer of observation and realization that helps you figure out why. And then once you have the full understanding, then you can make little tweaks in your life. Oh, this person does this and it makes me feel this. So one, let's go and talk to them. Hey, when this happens, it makes me feel this, which leads to this. And if they don't appreciate that or whatever, then you have the choice to make a change in your life. You don't have to have that person in your life, but it's not as simple to me as, turning up anger, turning down anger. It's all of the different layers that you don't even realize are contributing to your ability or inability to do whatever it is you want to do.
Yeah, originally I wanted I guess in my mind I had it broken up into two different segments. How does this change you personally, and then how does this change you in a business sense? But it really
Yeah.
seems it's very
Sorry.
much rooted in
We're slimy.
personal. eh, Well,
Oh,
like
yeah.
the personal, without the personal, you can't change the business. So from
100%.
yeah,
Fuck
so
yeah.
from personal, what's that next step to take it from you've changed personally to then improving your business?
It really depends on the situation for who they are. And it depends on their goals. But that instance that we just talked about where it's like turning up the anger or being able to talk to someone, there's all of these crucial conversations are in business. Especially in real estate as an agent. How many times, oh my God. And for anyone who knows me, I think that if I were to have probably one superpower in the whole world, it's the ability to wordsmith in a way that I can convey a message and tell that person off, but have them leave thanking me. The reason why I'm saying that is because through strong interpersonal skills and through strong understanding of yourself, you're going to be able to better negotiate, better communicate, better manage expectations, better think about what you want, strip away the reasons of I should be doing this, and identify if it's something that you actually want to do and proceed in your business or your personal life. But to me, it's if all of this stuff directly ties to business, to me. Does that make sense? Because everything is your ability to think and then act and communicate, which all comes back to it starts with yourself.
Yeah, the way I'm thinking about it, I guess, is you first, and the second order, would be the business. So I want to go talk further about that portion. You take notes. You
Yes.
mentioned keywords earlier. What type of keywords are you looking for? How small, how long are these keywords? And then what do you do from there?
My keywords are whatever's floating across my brain in that moment. So it's not like I'm writing an SEO blog and I'm trying to hit all the keywords. You know, you know what I mean? It's I go in with some sort of focus or not. You don't have to go in with a specific focus, and you go on the adventure and you go through the visuals part. And then after you're through the intense visuals, you start to pay attention to what's around you, how you're feeling. And then literally it's almost it's bubbling up ideas and thoughts. And those are the ones as they are dancing across my brain, I capture as much as I can of whatever the thought. And it's not even just like when the thought comes, it's a full thought. I'm there, we're doing it. It's just by the time it leaves me, I have 3 words, hopefully, of scribble. And it's all, Allie, next time I see you, I'm gonna bring them. I'm gonna be a girl, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. At retreat.
Yeah, friggin' retreat. That's right. Dude, people are gonna be
Okay.
scared. They're just trying to make us do drug. No, we're not. We're not tripping. It's not
Well,
drug-free zone.
that brings me to another question that I got. I don't know if I
Okay.
want to
Yeah.
name this person only because I don't want to implicate them in any way, but I'm looking for the plug for shrooms. Says a fellow 5 Pillars member.
Oh my
So,
God.
yeah.
That's the number one thing my attorney told me not to say. which I don't have anything.
And then Shane
Yeah.
of Raleigh, another Five Pillars member, asked about how the first experience overall, which you touched on. By the way, for those that had questions, thank you so much for responding. If you ever have any other questions
Thanks,
about
guys.
anything, throw it on, hit either of us up on Instagram, go on YouTube. We're not done with
Yeah.
this episode yet, though, but I just want to plug that in.
I'm
So
sweating. It's fine. Keep going. Yes.
Shane's second question was, where would somebody go to learn more?
Yeah, dude, such a good question. So I had my shaman, which I think I said in this episode, which was super helpful because my friend had been doing it for years and years and years. And so he had a lot of firsthand experience. But also, as soon as I was, considering doing this, I read How to Change Your Mind, which it's a book on the new science of psychedelics that teaches us about consciousness, dying, addiction, depression, and transcendence. And that was a really cool book. I liked it a lot. It speaks to the skeptics for sure, and it's a little more clinical, but I liked it. And then also there's so many podcasts these days that if you search it, they are popping up all over the place. And that's actually really funny. A couple of years ago when I first this is the best. This has changed my life. I considered going off the path of real estate and becoming what is it called when you speak for the, the cause.
Advocate?
I did consider it. Yeah, this is my call. Okay, just kidding. Real estate focus. But yeah, the Huberman Lab, it was only about a month ago it came out with an episode. Dan Krupa actually sent it to me. Yeah, and it talks about how psilocybin can rewire your brain and the therapeutic benefits, etc. But yeah, so for podcasts, easy. Just literally give it a Google that. I was looking it up earlier and I saw some cool screenshots. I took screenshots as if I was going to share them on this podcast. I don't even know how. But they had these two different, it was a CNN something. They had these images of two different brains side by side and the brain activity, and of someone who's not on psychedelics versus someone who is on psychedelics. I'll send it to you after this. And the one who was on psychedelics was just lit up. All of the different pieces of the brain that on the one that wasn't using psychedelics, the one that wasn't using psychedelics had very little brain activity. It was literally a very small spot on the entire brain. And that's where the lighting up was happening. But on the other one, it was literally using the entire brain. And that's what they talk about in a lot of these studies, how it helps you break out of your thought patterns and use more pieces of your brain to build a more full perspective of reality, of everything. So they also equate it to kind of a child's brain before you learn all the ways that you should be. And it's just this ability to see more.
Okay. Yeah, it's like before, before the routes, the wires are all connected as you grow older.
Dude, I'm so not a scientist. The wires and the lights, the colors. Yes.
Yeah.
Do drugs. No, just kidding. Don't do drugs. Fuck.
Okay. The first time I heard about psychedelics was I was on a really big Tim Ferriss kick for a while. 2018, 2019, I read a lot of his books, and they're big books. And he's a big proponent of psychedelics and, microdosing, but I feel like everyone, that's just such a common phrase now. Everyone's like, microdose. Okay, cool. There is a lot of science behind that. And totally. I think that's what changed my perspective on it. Not that I ever, was really against it. I just couldn't do it because I, was military.
Yeah.
I can see though with the benefits from this, I think that I would want to do this every other day. Is this addictive?
No, it's not addictive at all. And I promise you're not going to want to do this every other day because it is so intense. You just go through so much. Truly, you go through so much that at most, I would say, when I first got into this, I did it once a month for a year, which was an insane amount. If you talk to anyone that's a lot of times but I felt so much, there was so much benefit that I just kept coming back. But it wasn't because I was addicted. It was because I felt I was transforming at a very rapid rate, which is what I wanted. But I promise you're not going to want to do it every day.
I do want to get into finishing the notes. So now we know as you hear or feel a couple of thoughts, keywords, you write them down. The next day, you take the whole day off to work on that.
Bro.
How do you remember, or is it easy to remember what the you were trying to say?
It is easy to remember, actually. It's kind of when you're in the moment. I've been using the analogy of the wind, but it's almost kind of a river in a way too, where you're just continuing down this river and you're not going to stop for you can't stop it. It is happening. But then let's say that the next day you went back to the river, you would probably remember what you saw, if you were on a canoe trip or whatever. So it's kind of that where it's, oh yeah, I remembered that. And then I just pull it apart and make it into it's actually funny. A lot of our nuggets on our weekly sync notes, I do the nugget at the bottom where this is my little life thing. Literally half of them are inspired by psychedelic trips. It's fine.
I'm trying to think, is there a time period where you would forget that? Obviously it would be best to collect all of your thoughts, look at your notebook that you just finished from the day before, and apply that.
Yeah.
First question out of my 2 questions is, what would you think is too late of a time to start applying? And then I want to get into the actual application of it.
Yeah, it definitely would become too stale at some point. I don't know at what point, because that's the thing. It's all going to depend on the person. But for me, it's fresh. I'm doing it right now. I want to go through it, and anything that I need to pull out and actively plug into one of my either business systems or life processing, how Shelby operates in the world, I want to do it right now. Because it's kind of, this is life with me too, where if it's something that I can do now and I'm choosing not to, now I have to remember to do it, and it's over my head and it's weighing on me. So I might as well just do it. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Long story short, I don't know.
So what you're saying though is that there is a personality type, I think, from what I gather, there is a personality type that would benefit, and then those that don't implement would just be tripping for fun and not to actually better themselves.
I think they would still benefit. And I think that it could still be to benefit to better themselves. It's just whether or not they implement everything that they've learned, or whether it's that this happens all the time too. You see people who go to, let's say, training events, or they go to conferences. There's the people who take all of the notes, who go home and implement. And then there's the people who go and they learn, and that was really insightful. I freaking love that. And then never implement it. Or, never think about it again. It's not they're not trying to better themselves. It's just there's some types that will really implement and sometimes that won't. And each have their place in the world. That sounds there. Yeah. No.
You mentioned in one
Yeah.
of your examples, you mentioned feeling essentially a negative way. Hey, I actually don't. It was probably, I don't know, just an example. I don't the way that this person talks to me. So when I come out, I'm going to reflect on this and then, talk to them. What about the reverse? Are there ever new positive thoughts that you're, oh, what is this? Not anything to do with you, your history, with your relationships, just new thoughts.
Yes. And they're honestly, none of it's new. That's something that I think is interesting too, that I don't think that anything is new. I think that we're just rediscovering or discovering for the first time something that we've already known in the depths. This is a whole nother route that I won't go, but we could go that way some way. The things that are feeling new to me is the novelty of what is around me that I take for granted every day. The psychedelics have a really, really good way of making me so grateful for little things that I take advantage of. You can just sit outside in the grass, be so blown away by nature. And then you start thinking about that tree is so grounded in the earth, and this sounds so but it just makes you so appreciative of every little thing, whether it be nature. Nature is a huge one for sure. But also this last time after I came back from tripping, I made an entire gratitude wall in between my kitchen and where the hallway I walk all the time. And I just have a sticky note and Sharpies sitting there. And I just stick things that I'm grateful for, because I realize that if you don't pay attention to it, you're, oh God, my life. And then it's no, your life is amazing. Shut the up. You know what I mean? So I'm not discovering, I'm just more, it brings clarity and gratitude and appreciation for nature, people, the life I have, all of that stuff.
Would you say you weren't grateful before you started tripping?
I would say that it's easy to forget. I wouldn't say that I wasn't grateful. I would just say that other things tend to prioritize themselves in my brain. This short pause is to tell you that this podcast ain't free. Y'all, tap on the 5 stars and leave a review with your Instagram handle. If you're funny, we might give you a shout out on the next episode. Thank you so much. Back to the show.
There are some people, that wake up and they're thankful, grateful, the whole thing, I wonder what their trip experience would it be that, times 100, or would they just go down a different route, something, maybe they would become more competitive, Uh, yeah, I wonder.
I ain't got nothing. Sorry, Allie.
What questions have I not asked that you wanted to touch on?
This is not a numbing, forget yourself type of experience. This heightens everything. It brings so much color and clarity and vibrance into your experiences. So that's just something for people who haven't, it's not a off drug. It's not, let's forget everything. It's no, let's look everything in the face. And that's probably why it's scary too, because a lot of people will do some sort of drug to forget or numb or not pay attention to, whereas this is the opposite. This is brace yourself and stare into your soul.
I love this. No, I love this so much. And for everyone else, if there was a question that I did not ask, it's because you don't follow me on the gram and you didn't ask the question. So if you have any follow-up questions, I have a feeling that people will have follow-up questions. Maybe we could even do a part 2 on this, or take it down, a different route as well the next time that we do our one-on-one interviews. I'm sure that people are going to have questions. And if they want to hit you up, you also mentioned books, you mentioned podcasts, you mentioned the Goog, but if they have specific questions, they can hit you up on Instagram. You are The Shelby Show, and give her a follow. And if you have any questions for me, then hit me up on Allie the Agent. That's ALI_the_agent. We are both on Instagram quite often. The checklist, perhaps, might be uploaded as a golden nugget. The website is theagentgoldmine.com. If you have any suggestions as to who you want interviewed next, go on that website and fill out the form. You can fill it out on behalf of somebody else too. Hey, I want to nominate this to this person, and then we'll hit them up and we'll interview. Totally. Or if you have the connection, just feel free to, connect. But we look forward to reading your reviews. And Shelby, I think this was a great episode.
Dude, I hope so. I hope you guys liked it, because it didn't hit me till the end when you're like, how does this tie to business? I'm like, you're right. Ooh, I have not talked about business at all this whole time. It's all, whatever psychedelic experiences. But yeah, thanks so much for deciding that this is the route we were going to go. I don't mind at all going off the beaten path into whatever direction, whether it be agent, real estate, or otherwise. That was something I was going to note too, guys. If you're listening and I really want them to talk about this subject in real estate, even if it's not a specific person, if it's a topic, we would love to hear that too. And we want to get better. If you can't tell from this podcast, Allie's trying to figure it all out, and I'm tripping balls to get better. We want this to be the best podcast ever. So if there's any feedback, anything you want to see or don't want to see, let us know, please.
Yes. Yeah. And by feedback, well, I would some critiques, dude. It's awesome hearing that we're doing a great job, but also what can we work on? So
that's boring.
Yeah, that's boring. Thanks for the compliment. Next.
We need helpful things. Tell us where we're up so we can fix it. Not good stuff. Although good stuff, sure.
Yeah. And it could be as something as technical as your audio sucks to, hey, you touch on this topic too much and I want to hear more about this. So hit us up. You have our Instagrams now. You have the agentgoldmine.com. Feel free to go on that website. And until next time,
be a bro and share the show. Thanks for listening, dude. If you want the golden nugget that this guest provided, see the show notes or just go straight to theagentgoldmine.com. That's where we keep the resources for you. Till next time.